There is also, I believe, well, you know the group KKK, Klu Klux Klan, supposedly. It actually stands for Kennedy, 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 or Kill, 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 basically. It's actually the Kennedys, three Kennedy brothers or four Kennedy brothers. There used to be like 6 or 8 of them, basically, and basically JFK. And so KKK was the last three remaining Kennedy brothers that were together, and their group basically. Like I said, there used to be a lot of money set aside for children's parades and also orphanages, or at least some things. Um, basically, Nixon spent his whole life trying to get access to the banking accounts, or banks, basically, which he initially did not have access to. Anyway, at some point, basically, KKK Club, or Kennedys, pretty much stole the money for all the children's parades and spent it on beer or alcohol or drugs or something. I don't really know. Basically, there used to be money set aside for basically children's parades, for basically the floats, the animal rental, stuff like that, animals, and also for other things that would be associated with the children's parades. And also children's clothes, I think, and stuff like that for the orphanages. Basic upkeep so the orphanages will have money, pretty much. They're in a couple different separate accounts, but basically for children. I had put the money there. I had to put money put there, you know. And basically, at some point in time, they got access to the money. And like I said, how the KKK actually started was basically they spent all the money, and so they put on and there was a parade. So they're going to put on the parade or something like that, or something like that. I don't know. Maybe they got in trouble. So I think maybe that's how they initially got access to the account. But basically, they decided to put on the parade for the kids. So they went to a hotel, stole a bunch of sheets, and cut a bunch of holes in the sheets, and then walked down the street wearing these. They look more like ghosts, I guess, basically. Anyway, but they stole the money for the. They stole the sheets from the hotels, and then they walked down the streets with just the sheets with holes cut in them, and basically had taken all the money out of the accounts. Then after the parade or whatever, they just walked down the streets, and basically they were drunk doing it too. Some of them apparently were throwing up or something like that as they're walking down the streets with these sheets covering them. But anyway, they just walked down the street or whatever, and they went to a bar or whatever, I don't know. And they were yelling, "Fuck you!" and "Shed!" and stuff like that as they walked down the streets in sheets. This is what they put on for the children. Like I said, the children knew and the parents knew that there was going to be a children's parade, and they advertised for the children's parade. Children's parade, blah, 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 blah. Or there's money for the advertising. Maybe they probably went and stole that money too. I don't really know. Like I said, I don't know the details. You have to look it up. But this is what happened to the children's parades in the old days. Anyway, so basically, this is how the KKK got started. So anyway, all the parents showed up. All the kids showed up. And then here's these 20-year-old kids walking down the street and in sheets basically yelling, "Fuck you!" and "Shit!" or something like that. It's my children's parade money and my children's parade. This is what the Kennedys did. This is how the KKK got started. They took all the money from the accounts. And basically, like I said, they figured if no one wanted to have a children's parade, then it wouldn't matter. No one would miss the money. So they walked down the street in front of all the children going, "Fuck you!" and "Shit!" and "Cocksucker!" or something like that. I don't know. They were. All I know is that they're yelling curses as they walk down the street, saying all this shit at the kids and the parents. So they figured that, afterwards, no one would want to go to a children's parade, or no one wanted a children's parade, so it wouldn't matter about the money. So this is what the KKK did. And then later on, I guess they got better uniforms or something like that. I don't know. And basically it was Kennedys. It was Nixon. They got access to the children's parade money and sucked the accounts dry. and went after the orphanages and the orphanage money too. And I think also raised the tax rate on the orphanages. I don't really know. Like I said, I don't know. You have to actually do this research yourself. But this is basically, if you ever wondered how the KKK got started, it stands for three Kennedys, or JFK basically, three JFKs, the three brothers or something. And basically it's Nixon. You know, JFK as Nixon. You know, this is who Nixon really was. He was a Kennedy, and one of the Kennedys with plastic surgery, and basically, you know, this is how they all got started. They sucked out somewhere around 1920s or 1930s, 1940s, some year. They started with sucking out the money for the children's parade, and basically then walked down a children's parade street, yelling insults at the children and the parents. And then later on, you know, anyway, so basically they were living on the children's parade money, which wasn't all that much. It was a couple $100,000. I don't know. It was enough for a children's parade, though. I mean, usually it's volunteers and whatever, and some, you know, the people that would bring the animals, you know, would just pay for their, you know, for like usually there'd be a petting zoo, you know, and also pay for cleaning up the street, you know, the street sweepers and stuff like that to clean up the manure from the street and everything else like that. So everyone would be paid like, you know, a couple dollars an hour at least to do all this stuff. So anyway, I mean, I guess Kennedy or Nixon figured that it was better this way. You know, no street mess. It saved on the street cleaning up, and basically no one would ever want to have a children's parade again. So like I said, they walked down the street in these sheets, basically yelling insults. So no one would ever want to go to another children's parade ever again, or at least not in that town. There were children's parade, and I think they might have actually gone around the world to the different children's parade, because the different children's parade were in different towns. Like once a year, there'd be a bunch of children's parade, and so one group or three groups would go around and basically do the children's parade. So Kennedy basically, you know, I guess spent the money on airfare or whatever, went around and maybe did these children's parades or something like that. And like I said, they did them all the same. They'd use the sheets or use some uniform that was basically the white cone, you know, and the two eyes, and they would walk down the streets. And the reason why they wore that, of course, is because they'd be yelling insults. Fuck you, cocksucker, shit. You know, that, or something like that. At least that's what they say. I was wondering about it myself, and they were yelling insults. So, like I said, Lucifer White Star Line, me. I used to pay for the children's parades, pay for a lot of things. Till Kennedy came along. Then, like I said, they got access to the accounts. They sucked all the money out, and basically, you know. So, that's what happened to that. Well, I'd be like, blah, 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 blah. It's like, this is real. All this stuff is basically Richard Nixon and JFK. Later on in life, I guess the Republicans were trying to say there's not enough resources I think they were going in front of everyone saying that there isn't enough resources in the world, and that in order to have resources, in order to have a sustained economy, blah, 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 we had to go and take it from other countries. This is what the Republicans, well, JFK or Richard Nixon, because they had spent all the money. They blew the money as fast as they could spend it, basically, on beer or whatever. You know, and like I said, their numbers grew and grew and grew and grew because they would just hand out money to people, basically. Like I said, most KKK members didn't even believe in anything that the KKK in the letterhead, but they were giving stuff and money and stuff like that. And some KKK members actually had to pay what's it called, a fee or something like that, like $3 or $7. I don't know. Like I said, no one knew who the leader of the KKK was, and they would all say it was, it's Harry over there, or I think they had code names like Harry, or it's Harry, or Dan, or Jim, or something like that. I don't really know, but basically, no one really knew who the KKK leader was, and they're a big group, but it's basically JFK, just basically the three Kennedys, three brothers. That's why it was KKK. Maybe a long time ago it was 4K or 5K, I don't know. Because there were 8 brothers or 8 people, basically, that looked about the same. So anyway, so that's how they were getting money, basically, when they were 20 or 15 or something like that. It's basically sucked out. They got access to the Children's Parade money and also the orphanage money, and they spent it all. Because, like I say, the orphanage used to have money for clothes, and also the Children's Parade used to have money for children's parades. So they sucked it dry and put on their own in sheets. So that's JFK, that's KKK, that's basically Nixon. That's what they're doing. That's who they were. They'd walk down the street, like I say, and say, fuck you. That's why they wore the sheets or whatever, so you wouldn't know who was actually yelling, fuck you, and shit, and cocksucker, as loud as they possibly could. While children were watching. Or they would do it in some other town, I don't know. I suppose there's allegations of sex scandals and all kinds of stuff. Even rape with the KKK. Of course, like I said, it's basically JFK or Nixon. And what they're doing on the side. Anyway, some members of the KKK would be charged money or asked to do favors or asked to do something. I don't know what kind of benefit they got from it. You'd have to ask them.